Hi everyone, this is Corey here, and I continue my serial about designing a vampire survival-like game. Mine one, which is at the moment is just a very simple proof of concept, is a ship-based, battleship-based game where I just created a very simple version of it where I'm using in 3D VDCS a basic movement and a bunch of mobs which is attacking me, and of course when they get too close then they get destroyed automatically. That's it at the moment. However, I use this as a base of actually create the design of the game, which will be the topic of the today video as well, like the previous ones. So most of the time I will spend here showing off the different parts and bits, all the things what got updated since the last episode. So technically not necessary were to watch the previous ones if you're watching this already, because those shows earlier variation on it. So don't get scared because this is version 4. Because this is the latest variation of the design. It's getting close to finish. There is already some part which I'm coded done, like the game loop module, which is not necessarily strictly part of the survival game engine, but it's depend on it, because the game loop module is something what I will use in all of my games. That one responsible not just managing the main game loop with the event-based system, but also popping up menus and other and any kind of main structure, what going and bringing the communication between the different part of the systems or modules. Okay, so today what I will dive into, it will be overview of the menus and UI, and then in the end of the one I may actually work a little bit on it, but I will see the time how quickly it goes. And where I got major updates, there is two areas. I worked out really the player and weapon module in a details, and the another one is where I worked a lot is the movement, which I tried to abstract out as much as possible so it's as reusable as possible for similar games. And I created a couple of more detailed diagrams on different aspects, not just the class diagram, but some communication and other diagrams there for related to weapons and rewards and the cycles of mobs and so on. Okay, so yeah, that will be mainly the topic today, and let's dive in right away. So to make it easier to understand, I started to pull out images, screenshots from the game, the Vampire Survival, so it's easier to understand what are we talking about. And let me get up some. Yeah, that will be the code what I want to show. Okay, good. Okay, all right, so menu. So the full menu structure of the Vampire Survivors game is starts with the start menu, and from the start menu we have the character selector, and from there we go actually playing. When you confirm your character, the game starts. But on this screen we also have collection, the bestiary, credits, unlock, power-ups, options, or we can quit the game. Before I go through all of them, after we started the game, we go, so if I go to the main game loop, it's technically we start the game, we go to play, we maybe quit the game or play, and then win or loser technically is a reward screen, and then we go back to start. We can anytime, of course, we exit the game loop and go directly without finishing and get to result screen to start. When we playing, we have like a level game loop. Maybe that would be a better name here. But when we start the level, we run the level and we get rewards and continue. We can pause the game, which takes back to our menus. But generally, we can finish up the level, either the timer goes down or we die. If we just died, some cases we can respawn and continue the game. Other ways, if it's done, we died, or we just the timer went up, then level is end, and then we go back to the start in the main game loop. So there is 3 kind of loops. One of them is not really a loop, with just the menu states. I can get to different states of the menus. I will explain that in a second. But if we go over the menus, at the start state, main start state, we have the start menus, we have the character selector, we can select the power-ups, collections, we can view, I think that's just a view, all the things what we found in the game, bestiary, which we can get information for all the different mobs, unlocks, where we can spend. No, I think this one is automatic with whatever we can unlock different things by different levels reached and so on, while the power of what we can buy actually using our gold. That's the reason the gold counter is actually there. And we have this randomizer as well, where we can unlock random cards what we can use in the game, which makes it more wild than normal. Okay. All right, so that's the start menu area, and then there is some arrows going cross, but I try to keep it in a way sane. From the start menus also there is the options button, which takes you to settings, but also you can access that from the pause menu. I didn't detail much out. I think it's quite simple. When you run the game, they don't have many options, but normally in a game you want to have it's a 2D game, so this one don't have, well, mine one will be a 3D game, so there will be definitely more ways to control, or more audio and video settings than in the basic game or the original game. So I have so far video, audio, game, and input settings. When you are in game, so play mode, and you pause the game, then you have other options as well. You can reach this randomize information, but also the map, which is shows you where are point of interest close by. Also weapons and evolutions, or weapon evolution and unions, which is technically grimoire, I think it's called in the game. So that one is possible to access. And also a feedback form, I just add that for me because usually you want that in a game. And also probably there will be a thank you screen for, like, say, the demo version, and add to wishlist screen or stuff like that. But I didn't map that in yet. And then this is the results screen when you finish your level. That's normally it shows all the details about the run. And in the reward menu, I technically created different versions, so I could have these ones as different menus completely, but I will see if that will be actually different or will be handled by one set of menus, because they look quite similar mostly. They have different stages of it, and also different types, depends on what is happening. Maybe the one of the most different from them is when you level up, then it shows you 4 choices and you just click the right one or whichever you want. There is the one which when you kill a boss and you open the chest, you get normally 1 item, but sometimes 3 or 5. And this one is selected for you, so you're not selecting, just accepting it. And then there is the special one that sometimes there are coffins, yes, when you are looking for killing the main vampire. So there is the coffins, and you can find in them either a weapon, or sometimes you can free one of the characters, what is a playable character, and those goes to your screen. This screen can be you can unlock, you can find them in the coffins. But other times you just find a weapon, and that looks like this. And also sometimes you can get the purple chest, which has a randomizer. Probably that would be in the English, but they call it a randomizer chest, and that's the one what gives you cards, technically, what you can use, or even multiple of them when you do your run. Okay, so I have this event-based system for both for game loop and menu states, and it starts with the menus off state, and then it can actually go to any of this state, and from any of the state can go to any of the another states. So that's the reason I didn't draw that out in a flow diagram there. Is that flow diagram? Please let me know in the comments. Or state machine. Yeah. So I didn't want to do a state machine for that one because it would be a lot of arrows to everywhere. But technically, I will explain in a moment how I sorted this. Even I can show the code. Technically, many of the menus can open another menu, which was a big problem on my game, the Multiplication Mayhem, as well, because let's say you go start menu, but you go options and so on, but then you push pause and then open something else, and then you want to go back to the previous state. So it technically works with the interrupt. You interrupt the previous one, go to the next state, but when you finish, then automatically it goes back to the previous state, and it stores them in a stack. Yeah, that's mainly the menu goes. Okay, and the UI. The UI is very, very simple for this game. The basic UI. You have bar, XP bar with the level that I call XP bar UI. SE is for survival engine, what I'm building. This will be a reusable engine, if I didn't say that yet. And bits and parts will be probably soon available on the asset store, starting with the game loop, and then different bits, how I write them, will be also available there. This was the advertisement part. It just helps the channel and helps the development if I do that. So I appreciate if anybody thinks they can use this and I can help with, and that helps the channel as well. All right, so we have a timer in the middle. We have a kills count and a gold count there, and the weapons UI, which shows the current active weapons. So that's the UI. It's very, very straightforward. Okay, I explained the main loop, and in the UI module, I don't have much of this mapped done, of which menu using which data. I have the reward UI, which is technically all these reward screens, all of these. This one is actually using listens to the reward action happened. If that one is rewards is ready or selected or weapons selected. So depending on if what you select here, or it's just selected for you. And then it's using the player progress data. I think this is old a bit, but I have the weapons bar, which would be this, which shows you what is selected. This orange one, sorry, is scriptable objects, so there is only one version of them exist, and these are events which sent using simple C# actions. And there is the XP bar, which is listens to unleveled and unadd XP events. If that happens, then it updates itself. It's straightforward. This is just some of the basic parts of that. But I don't want to go into the rewards module that detailed, because they didn't change that much other than I moved many things out from there and over to the player and weapons module. So let me go through of that. Let me see. That's programs, that's rewards, and weapons. That's the mobs and weapons. Okay. Yes, this is an overview of the weapons, and that's the rewards. Okay, so weapon module. I wonder if this would be easier to understand if first I go over with the weapon module itself, and then, because it's also touching some of the ECS engine part. Yes, I think it's better. So we have different characters, and the player who knows the current skill, current weapon, and the progress, hours of the progress, and listens to reward actions. So if there is a reward happened, like we open the chest, that's a reward action event. Okay, so weapons. Because it will be easier to understand what is a current weapon and so on. Okay, this looks scary a bit, but it isn't. This is this is action, and these are scriptable objects, which stores all the data, and let me see where I should start this. Probably if we understand the weapons and the skills, then that's a good start. So weapons, data on weapons. This holds all the information. I have an ID on it because there is some cases I'm just sending the ID, especially to the ECS module. ECS is quite restricted in a lot of respect. So this gave me a lot of headache for a while because I had to separate out the weapon itself from the weapon damage and the space where the damages happens, if that makes sense. But other than that, I technically created the base values, like the power, which is the amount of damage, how much time is recharge or effect, and how much is the damage what is done. And it has an icon, but we're able to see, for example, similarly like here. And also you can see maybe the effect of it. So there are weapons which is just show up on the screen and then damage is on that area. But there are weapons which is thrown and maybe flying or shooting. And I don't have one here on this screen, but I think this blue one is actually going to the closest enemy or something like that. So that's the reason there is 3 parts of a weapon. The prefab, which is actually shot, and then when it's hit, there is maybe an explosion or some kind of effect there. That's the second part, and the third part is actually that area where it's hit. Now, the last 2 could be the same, but because I'm using the ECS for the calculating all the damage and all the mobs are moving on the ECS space, that's I'm in Unity. I'm using this. I didn't say that, but I'm using Unity wherever possible. So that's the 3 parts of that weapon. So other than that, we have progression. That's what tells how far, what is the level of the weapon what we use, because each weapon has multiple levels, and then what kind of, that's just a type, and then there is dependencies on this weapon on other skills or weapons before you can unlock them. So the progress is interesting because it tells me in each level, because that's a list. So each level, like level 1 maybe is become stronger, level 2 it's has 2 projectiles, and level 3 is the recharging is quicker, and so on. But I think I may already talked about this before in another video, but I just want to summarize it really here. And then the skills is also have levels, and there are different things they do in different levels, for example, but it's less likely on the skills. The skills are also visible here, this in the second row here, and this is all kind of different boosts, improving weapons and areas. But here you can see the combination of them can give a different type of weapon. So if I have the I don't know, the X and candlestick thing, then I get a much stronger version of that weapon. which do extra damage in larger area and so on. And that's represented on this dependency. So there are certain special weapons, but it's combination of another two. So if has a dependency, that depends on already some of the basic weapons. And effect type, it's not really detailed yet, but it will have a name and ID definitely, and depending on that, I know if that's an area weapon, for example, or something about flying in a straight line, and so on. And then this is I just have I will get to that in a moment. So knowing that we have a current version of the weapon and the current version of the skills in a list, and this current version stores all the summarized value of that weapon and skill modified stats together. So if I have the lasso, but it's in level 3 and it has a certain amount of power level, and it's modified by my updates and skills and so on, all that's summarized for the playtime on the current weapon and the current skill. So it knows all the current level and which weapon slot it goes. The weapon slots you see here. So I will have the same way weapon slots and skill slots. So we know, sorry, going back there. Yes, so you know where is it, what is the current calculated effective value of it, and I have a link to the weapon data in it, and I know which level I am and when last fired it, because if I know the recharge length and the effect length, then I can calculate when I have to fire it again. And that's the weapon manager does. It keeps tracks all the weapons and skills. It can handle leveling it up. It can recalculate all the values if we leveled up any of the skills, because it can affect any of the other weapons. So it's just keep track of that, and yes, it handles if a skill get upgraded, if it's a fire weapon get upgraded, all that, any of that happens, because it listens to a reward action. So if a reward happened, aka we get a new weapon level or new weapon or anything, then it updates this list and makes sure it keeps track of the latest values of all, and also listens to the action on weapon fired. Yeah, right? Yes. No, the tick. Sorry. So I will explain that, but it listens how the timer goes and then fires the weapon, that weapon which is already recharged relative to when last was fired. Okay, so I have a ticker for the weapons, the timer, which we can set up the step of the time, like it calculates every second or every tenth of a second, for example. And then it creates every tenth of the second a signal, and that signal goes out, and the weapons manager listens to that. Not just the weapons manager, but that's one of them what can listen to that. And it has multiple different variants, I think. There will be on weapon fired, or the tick itself is coming from its invokes tick, which is a tick of the weapon action. And then I have multiple of them. If a weapon fired, in weapon damage start and on weapon damage done. Those are for some weapons which is last for longer. So there are like a laser would be instant, like just a split of a second fired, but there is some of them that maybe linger. Like in Vampire Survival, there is I think holy water what you drop and then it lingers for a while and damage any mobs what enters there. But when the effect length goes away, then the weapon damage done will be fired, and then we know to remove those ones. And then I have a weapon pooler, which is takes all the weapons and then show them and hide them. I keep the weapon itself, not the damage part and the other effect, but the weapons itself on the mono behavior side of things, and only the ECS handles only the damage action itself. And then also it has some of these abstract SRV weapons. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, it's not that detailed, that part completely, but it's technically to able to do the firing, all weapons have to be extended as a weapon, what I will have. So that way I can have I can generate multiple weapons, but we'll extend this one, and then the pooler can handle them and use them, activate them, so they can be fired and or deactivated. Okay, that was a big piece. And let's just check. Yeah, so summarizing that on this chart, this one is a communication diagram. So the weapon timer fires a signal, a weapon tick, which goes to 3 places: the weapon manager, which we already discussed, and also these purple ones are in the ECS system. The ECS is a data driven system, which is more very efficient, but it's a lot more restricted. Can use multiple jobs, and it can be really efficient to move a lot of objects at the same time. Hi, I just see we had a new viewer. And so the weapon module is sorry, I rearrange a little bit my windows so I can see if somebody pops in better. Yeah, okay. The player module is really just take track of current, like all the weapons and rewards and stuff like that. It's not that detailed. Okay, so back to this. Sidetracked. Sorry. So the player damage system and the mob damage system is get activated every time when the tick goes. So if the player touching a mob, then it's get damaged each time when the tick is coming. So I'm avoiding that is get 100 million damage because it's just touching for 60 frames a mob. We will set up how often is actually the damage will be applied, and when the damage is applied, that will be the player damage system create if any mobs is touching the player. And the same way, if any of the player's weapons damage area touching any mobs, then every tick they get damaged by that. Yes, and then the weapon manager we already talked about of can do fire a weapon, which is tells the weapon pooler to actually activate the weapon and show it on the screen, which is takes one of the weapons, whatever is activated, and shows on the screen. And then also sends on weapon damage. This arrow is maybe the wrong direction, I think. Yeah, definitely. So I fire it. Oh no, it is actually correct. So I fire the weapon. The weapon itself knows where, let's say it flies somewhere and starts the damage on that area. So it gives a position where the damage starts. And on that position, that sends us on weapon damage start to the weapon damage pool system, and weapon manager knows about it as well, and also the weapon manager knows it started. So when the time go to stop the weapon damage, then it sends the on weapon damage done, and which listened by the weapon damage pool system in the ECS part of the game engine. Okay, that was again a big piece, and we didn't even talk about movement, what I want to do. That will be the next. So okay, so this was heavily rewritten. Okay, so damage. Okay, player damage is easy because it has the player data, and if it calculates if any mobs touching the player, then it's just create damage for the player. It knows where is the player, and also it subscribes, of course, the weapon action. Okay, so I have a weapon action authoring, which takes all the weapon data and bakes it into a component entity, which is a weapon prefab entity. It has, which is technically some kind of type of area, a spatial place for the physics engine. But this one is, why I have multiple arrows there? One enough. But that one is handled by a damage pool system, which create a bunch of these prefabs. These prefabs are not exist until the moment we are actually invoke them, and then we can add damage areas or remove them depending on the signal from the weapon action here, which, if you remember, the one which is can be telling if the weapon damage is starts or done. So depending on that, it will show up. Is there an example on that image? Oh yeah, okay, we already showed that. So if, let's say this is the area where the damage goes, then it creates a invisible little area there, and this cross-checking if there is any mobs are in that area, and then they damage them. Really, that's the magic. So it creates area which is a weapon damage data. It's a data-driven system there, or the ECS system. And this one will cross-check with the mob damage system. And then that one sends a message which is not exactly a message, it's more just adds a tag to the mob. It's if it's destroyed, if the damage was more than its total hit points, then it creates a tag on it to tell it's destroyed, and also start to do an explosion animation on it. With the explosion animation system, start to play a little explosion. Other ways, it just add the damage amount with the SE damage component to that mob, and that will be handled by bot damage label system, which is label system. Okay, that one need a little explanation. So if you see when something get damaged, then there is a little number popping up. So that's what happens. The number will come up with the amount of damage, and that one need to be known. So it's placed this SE damage on it, which will trigger the not the explosion, but the damage amount. And sorry, my screen want to turn off. And then also, if I find the if the mob is destroyed, then it creates a drop, like I don't know if you can see on the picture. Yeah, these little gems, what the player can collect, and those technically XP. So it drops one of them if it's got the destroy tag, which was applied here. So it's plays the animation, start to play the animation, and also it will take the destroy tag and then remove that tag, while it's also remove the prefab data, and also it should create a drop. Yeah, from the prefab it creates a drop. Okay, so when it's destroyed, it creates a drop and removes the tag from the mob, and the mob gets reused and respawned on the edge of the screen. I don't show that right now, but that definitely happens. And the drop pickup system also, if you are later the player picks up that drop, then it sends an event on as a reward, either a XP or a chest, depending on what you pick up. So that's what happens when it's destroyed. If it's got damaged, so SE damage, let me find the SE damage. That one is listened anywhere. It should be. Maybe I didn't finish that part. Technically, if it's get damaged, we should label, but then we should remove as well. So I think when we remove, I just didn't add the text saying it should remove the label. So uses and removes. But I have a feeling I should also yes, the mob damage system actually would update the value on it, so it's actually adds the damage to it. So we don't need to handle that somewhere else because that will update the mob itself. Yeah. Okay. So you see, mostly the ECS is not using events to communicate, only just from outside from the engine, the ECS engine. So it gets events like the ticks and the damage start and so on, or if the weapon is fired. But between the different systems, the entity component system, the system part, there is this tags or added to different elements like the mobs. And that one is the way how is it communicating, because a lot of them can change or die or damage in every frame, really, especially when there are thousands on the screen. Yeah, and the another interesting thing what I may want to talk over is the mobs. Oh, maybe this is interesting because we talked about the mob life cycle, and after that I jump into the mobs movement. Stay tuned in for that because that's I think that one is came out quite good so far. So mobs life cycle is we adding a mob to the pool. Is this finished? Yeah, I'm not sure. Is this finished? This not look that finished than I thought, so it is. This is the rewards. Okay, I check what is done here. Let me see. Mob remove system, mob pooler system. So destroyed, create a drop, and then take. Okay, so I don't think this is complete. Sorry, I will come back to that when that complete. But maybe this one should be. So the mob damage system at the tag of the destroyed, when it's destroyed, which get create a drop, which just turn on the mob, turn off the mob on the I enable component. That's the official name in Unity. When you add the component like that, you can enable and disable a entity without really it's need to be restructure anything in the memory. And the mob spawns the mob spawn system spawns the mob. That's of course happens before we damage it. And the mob pooler is the one which is turns it on. So it creates it, sets it disabled until the pooler puts them in the right position, and then the pooler after that, when it's enabled, then it goes towards the player, which can damage it, and then if it's destroyed, it can drop, and then it's get disabled and then reused. In case if it's needed to remove, then get a remover tab and then get removed completely. That would happen if there are certain cases when a mob is not needed anymore because more advanced mobs are used. So that would be that part. Okay, I really want to show what I did with movement because that's heavily changed, I think, since the last one. Okay, so I identified a couple of tags what I adding to the different mobs, and those, depending on these tags, the different systems are pick them up and make them move. Okay, so let me just jump over here. If I no, this is the control, but there is, yeah, okay, I will come back there. There is different ways to move, and we can move the word around the player or move the player in the word, which is also cool. Moving the player is the easier, but it's causing problems when you get too far from the 0.0. Like you start to have float point inaccuracies, which can cause a lot of really funny and not that much funny errors or artifacts and stuff like that. So you want to keep the player close to 0. Either just move the word around it, or limit the movement, or if this reach a certain amount of distance, then move the whole word back to 0, which is most of the time good, except certain things can cause problems. For example, terrains cannot be moved, so you have to do trickery when you create a tile which is the same, maybe at 1 kilometer, 1,000 blocks away or 1,000 units away, the same like the one that's at 0.0, and then you can move it. So it is possible if the word is repeated, for example, which is for vampire survival game. It's actually after time it's repeats, or just because you meet different mobs, you're not really sensing that it is actually repeated. So it is possible to do that too. So it really depends on how you want. The engine will allow both. And for that, I introduced a certain tags to do. But first, there is different type of mobs. There is the simple one, which is hunts the player, and I have the move to player tag. So if you add one of the mobs, get this one, then the move to target system will take its speed and it moves towards the player by that speed in every frame. And then there is the move to target, which is technically very, very similar to the another one, just in here, not trying to go to the player, which is a known position, but is a certain target. It's imagine there are mobs which is start from a certain point and just go across the screen, and when they reach their destination, they just despawn. So there are those ones. What is a good example to move to target type of mobs? And also there are ones which is shoot. I think yes. When they there are ones which is shoot projectile, and the projectile itself is just moved towards a certain distance and then disappears. So that would be also move to target type and handled by the move to target system. So if any mobs or any projectile or anything gets, for example, those tags with the target coordinate, then the system is just moves them there. Doesn't matter how many of them or what their target is. And then there is the guard location. There is a couple of mobs which is was defending a certain special location, or the coffin in the Vampire Survivor game. So that one would be handled by the guard system, and if any of the mobs get this guard location, then it will guard that target area in a circle. They moving around it, for example. And then I have the move with the word tag. If anything, so if I move the word around the player, then really everything else get the move with the word tag. So that means that's actually what I'm doing on the demo, what I showed in the beginning. I move all objects. The player is actually 0, 0, and I move all objects not just towards the player, but I move them depending on the speed of the boat. I will move them with the word. So giving the illusion is actually the player moving. Okay. Okay, and then I have other ones what I can add. There is a I will explain the player in a second. So the exported destroy at boundaries tag, if it's have that tag and it's reaching the edges of the screen, just outside a little bit, then it's get removed or pulled, get back to the pool to reuse. In the destroy at target tag, it's the one what I mentioned. If there is a projectile or something but just moving to a certain point, then if I also add destroy at the target location tag to it, then the system will make sure it will be remove that when the pooling system will remove that when it's reaching the target. And destroy in time. So if I adding that one in time, that's not player, just destroy in time. Then if I give a certain time to exist for that, it's mainly for missiles and stuff, then it's travels towards for example the player before it gets destroyed. So that's mainly the different ones. So I can add any of this to randomly any of the mobs, or not randomly, but whichever mobs I want, and then the system can handle those. And the player movement is breakdown to a couple of parts. I have the player movement authoring, which is baked into the movement using the movement configuration. And the player movement system is moving the player, and the rotate system rotating the player because it's a ship. So it's happening that way. I break it up to multiple parts because while the rotation, while the movement, I have to move everybody when the ship is rotating. It's just affecting the ship itself, and it was more straightforward to write it in separate parts, especially because I will show you what I did on the player movement system, because I not just want to able to move a ship, but I want to do any kind of things in 2D. So if it's a car, a train, a ship, or just walking around, it will be able to control. That's the idea. And also there is a player input system, which is grabs the player controller's information and updates updates it to the movement data component, and from this movement data, the rotation and the movement system moving or rotating the system or all the mobs around the player. And also I have a sync player system base, not iSystem, which is synchronize the movement to the player on the mono behavior side, because I need to know that information as well for certain things. Whew. Okay, so just show you the different ways we can move. The simple 2D move, when you go up and down or left right on the screen, or forward, backward, and left and right. When you drive something, then you can go forward, backward, or turn left or right. And also you can accelerate forward or backward. And on a battleship, that would look like the following ways. You go forward, you can turn left or right, but also you have thrusters in modern battleships, but I didn't know, actually, just I did some research. And you can push on the side or even turn a little bit the ship, even on a standing position, because normally older battleships or older ships could not turn on the spot, and that one is possible now, and I had to capture that. And then you can of course move backward, and then you can accelerate backward, forward, or turn right and left as well, meaning the accelerate to speed up to the turning, how you turn the rudder, for example. So to capture all that, I come up with the movement configuration, what you seen earlier, but I didn't detail it. So that you have a base Y speed and base X speed, and then we have the minimum rotation speed before and maximum rotation speed before and after we can actually turn. So you can set that up, and then minimum rotation Y speed. So how I said, old battleships, if I simulate something like that, it had to reach a certain speed before it started to able to turn. That's the minimum rotation Y speed. That's the rotation speed. So that's the base minimum rotation speed and the base maximum rotation speed, which speed we can go the full amount of the turn. Let me try to explain that better. So for a character who walking around, we only need these two: base Y speed, base X speed, and you go with that speed, X and Y direction, X and Y. While if you want to rotate, like for example, a shape, then you have a minimum rotation speed to the maximum rotation speed. So I set up, if I don't want to rotate, it's both of them 0. If I want them right away rotate with the full speed, let's say you do something which is like a spaceship in space, which is rotates with the space. Of course, this is 2D, but then you set them the same value, like let's say 5 rotation speed. But if you want something what has a accelerate towards a higher speed of rotation, then I have to set it a minimum, like it starts from 0 and goes up to 5 degree per second or something like that. And then also I can set up the minimum speed, so y speed when I go forward, the minimum speed before the rotation starts to grow. So it starts from 0, but let's say you have to go at least, I don't know, 5 knots, or let's say 5 meters per second before the rudder has enough flow so it can turn. So that's what you can set up like that. And then the rest of them, this is acceleration of x and y. So it shows how quickly per second, for example, can accelerate both the speed forward or backward, and also the rotation itself, how quickly that rotation is turning, how quickly the rudder can turn. And then that's the rotation acceleration. So that's actually the rotation, and this one is just to moving on the y and x axis. And rotation point offset, what was that? Oh yes, okay. So if I'm in a car, I'm not rotating around the center of the object, but I'm rotating around the front wheels. So this one can handle that one. If I put the rotation offset to the front in positive direction, then I can turn around the front wheels and I can simulate a car with this system with all the acceleration and turning. And if I would put maybe in the back, then I can do something what has wheels in the back, for example. Yes, and the last one is just the boolean if I want to move the word around or just the player around. So I want to do this moving system as a separate module. I want to release, because definitely this is something what will be useful for so many people to have, and they don't need to develop a movement system for that in ECS. So that's what this movement config was doing. I think it's better if I do some kind of illustrations for it, because yeah, I should do that. Okay, I think I talked over most of the things what's new, except the game loop. Do I have time? Okay, the game loop system, because it's getting final, very close to final, I think I will do next week. So please tune in next week. And then thank you for watching today. And then please like and subscribe. And see you next time.